Thank you for having me.
Now, interesting stuff happening. Maybe I'll start from a different perspective. On Saturday, the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga, took on the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula. And he criticized him for playing party politics while holding the position of the Speaker of the National Assembly.
Yes.
He said that during the impeachment process of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Wetangula was not impartial.
Yes.
He took sides, and it was obvious, and he actually called for Wetangula to be removed from holding that kind of a position. So this is strange, seeing the former Prime Minister now throwing fire at Moses Wetangula, isn't it?
Yeah, to me that's a very obvious thing to have come from the former Prime Minister, or to the fact that ever since the entry of the the Kibaki regime in 2002 elections to date, the Bukusu community is known to not to be fully in support of Raila Odinga.
The Bukusu?
Yes, the Bukusu, as in 100%. Or even, I mean, the larger percent is actually found voting for the, opposing side. And in 2007, of course, they were not really fully for Raila Odinga. Come 2012, come 2017, 2022. So firing such salvos against the General Moses Wetangula, unlike doing the same to Musalia Mudavadi, is because to him he knows that striking that guy, because he has had a grip, because Ford Kenya has deep roots in the Mount Elgon region.
Yes.
And definitely, since it has not been his favorite, he wouldn't mind even having him kicked out of the National Assembly.
So you believe it's spite?
Yes, yes. And it has built over time. And occupying now the highest seat in the National Assembly, and also one of the top seats in the government. I think with the alignment of ODM in the Kenya Kwanza government would also be a thing of interest, because they would also like to feel like if we are to continue helping His Excellency the President in his battles, to win more battles, and have things go to his, to satisfy his interest and targets, then I think they expect such rewards.
But he has a point, doesn't he?
He does have a point.
He has a point. I mean, it was rather obvious.
Moses
to even lay people.
Betrayed the National Assembly by exposing what they had earlier planned concerning the Rigathi Gachagua plight and survival in that position. He actually made it so clear that this is not just a formal process where National Assembly is to sit down and listen to Rigathi Gachagua, but he made sure that anyone who is against the majority interest, that is the parliamentarians, he had to be somehow experience some form of suppression by muting and many other things, time limit and all these kind of frustrations that he brought about. Remember, in a public rally, he had also stated that he would not spare anyone, not even the deputy president, especially.
He had actually spoken out his mind, including the deputy president.
Including the deputy president.
I mean, not including the deputy speaker also.
The deputy speaker did have, she actually declared, a very partisan, he did a very partisan declaration in Uasin Gishu. That's her home turf. So definitely when you saw this, and then what really transpired it showed that even the speaker himself was not in control of all these things, and that is why he also behaved just like anybody else. And to see the Right Honorable Prime Minister criticizing this, I think even if it would have been a strategy, because of course he had also whipped his guys to vote against Rigathi Gachagua. So he's not really doing it in favor of justice. He is doing it in favor of his political interest, because if they create a gap in National Assembly, if they kick out Moses Wetangula, and possibly by February, March, they kick out the leader of majority, because they being supportive to the president, definitely, or Kenya Kwanza, definitely they will seek for more.
But that would be suicidal, because if you look at the mathematics in terms of the population, President William Ruto won the election with a difference of 200,000.
Yes.
Now, by going after Rigathi Gachagua, let us assume that Mount Kenya East, for argument's sake, goes with him because of Kindiki. That's 1 million people. Mount Kenya West has 3 million people.
Actually 4
million. So he would have lost this number of people, and he had won with only 200,000. He has not gained combination, as if the status quo was to remain. He's not won the combination, so that he can say, I will depend on the over 2 million voters in combination. He has not won. He is hoping that he's going to reap big from Luo Nyanza.
That's
now,
what he thinks.
Luo Nyanza have never turned out even 90% for Raila Odinga. So how does he expect that Luo Nyanza is going to turn out 100% for him? And then you now have the other groups coming in.
You know, there's some dynamics into play currently, even in the Luo Nyanza turf. For Raila Odinga to win an election or a serious position, unless he deputizes, I don't think there's anything beyond that he would get, because to amass the kind of support he had in 2022 and before might be a little tricky come 2027, because one, there is the age, I would call it an age defect in terms of politics, because the opposition or the opponents will use that to attack him and weaken his campaigns, because now, the age factor is going to eat into his stuff by either the William Ruto side or the other side that shall be competing against his excellency.
Who would, if you look at the problem that Rigathi Gachagua is having with President Ruto, or President Ruto is having with Gachagua, it's because both of them are headstrong. They're not people, they're not pushover.
They're independent-minded.
Yes, independent-minded. If the embodiment of independent-minded is Raila Odinga. Who in the world, in their right mind, would want to have Raila Odinga
as his deputy?
Because if you're expecting him to toe the line, it is not in his nature.
Actually, that's what I'm saying. But Raila Odinga has two cards. He either goes for it again, or he endorses somebody. And if Raila Odinga endorses somebody from the Nyanza community, not necessarily Luo, but the Nyanza community, the Kisses and whoever, if he endorses one person from there, then that will change the dynamics of politics to 2027. But knowing him as he is, definitely, I think he'll vow to himself he must attain that position at some point by whatever means. So that becomes very tricky, because we have the young parliamentarians coming up. We have the young leadership. We have the open-minded people from the Luo Nyanza who feel, I think it is time we allow somebody else to take the lead. So this kind of a coup is going to take place in Nyanza. It has already started, and it's going to take place in Nyanza. So it's not so stable, much as they are being hired as mercenaries, economic mercenaries.
Yes.
Yeah, because they are going to revive the Kenya Kwanza economy or to their failure. And sorry to so to say, because when they say that they sought for assistance from the opposition,
yes,
it means they were defeated. And now looking at what is ahead of them come 2027, having lost Mount Kenya, you lose the eastern region, that is the Ukambani. And not so sure, when we talk about losing the regions, we should be looking at people, not I mean the voters, not really the ones who've been voted, the leadership who have been voted. There are very few. You had the other day some leaders in Mount Kenya, from Mount Kenya, declaring that now that I have heard what the ground is saying, because they discovered it's too hostile for them. And that's, I think, the latest was yesterday, Mukami.
Yes.
Said that having listened to the ground, is it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Now I know what the ground wants. You know, it's totally different from what we thought the ground really wants. Of course, the damage is done. They voted. They had what they were really maybe promised,
yes,
or they have what they've been paid.
Yes.
I mean, to do what they did. So. I think with what is happening, Raila Odinga is coming to assist, but he doesn't have that much influence
on the ground.
On the ground, because Western Kenya
That's a very strange statement. That Raila does not have that much ground.
He doesn't have that much ground currently.
He doesn't have that much influence on the ground.
Receiving the alignment of people like Akina Malala. The independence of, you know, what do we say? Natembea is creating another front in the Western
yes,
bloc, and he's kind of moving independently, and I believe he's actually planning something for 2027. Which means they might have an alliance with the young guys also who had actually agreed to work together from both political divides.
Yes.
That's Malala and this other gentleman from ODM. They had agreed, you know, and it was through a parliamentary group meeting, and they said this is how we're going to move as Western Kenya. So when you look at that kind of politics, seeing what people like Kina Babu Wino now from Nyanza, the other perennial rebels that have been there, Kideros and the like, I believe that team is going to grow, and it's not going to be easy for the Odingaism to continue thriving as the icon of the Luo Nyanza. So his influence, like I said, is dwindling. When you talk about the 7 million that he had, the combination is not there.
Oh, yeah.
So he's not gonna be 7 million, not anymore. Yes. The coastal region, we're not so sure. In any case, the coastal region is actually multi-ethnic.
Yes.
In most regions,
with a huge percentage being Kamba.
Yeah, being Kamba, and there's also another percentage of Kikuyus from outside. There is a percentage of Luos and other communities who actually have settled or actually vote from the coastal region.
Mombasa, yes.
So that tells you one thing, that when Rigathi Gachagua chose to continue, knowing that he might eventually get impeached, you know, through the courts, he might be dismissed totally through the court case, what he knows is that he will step out, having exposed the rot that was there. And at the moment, he will have actually gained confidence. I mean, people have gained confidence in him as a man of the truth, because he stood by that one.
So that's such a huge price.
Yes,
because that simply means he's completely out of, cannot hold public office.
Not quite. He cannot hold public office. He can hold public rallies. He can endorse. Yes. You know, the endorsement power is what we're looking at in any elections.
So he holds public offices, then endorses somebody else.
He'll be endorsing people. He can be endorsing people thereafter.
Yes.
Because he will walk out with that kind of influence. He might not run into oblivion because he's not coming out as like one of the dailies is likening to Kalonzo Musyoka. Kalonzo Musyoka has been known to be a person who is unpredictable.
Yes.
You know, and not to have his ground on the feet. This time he's trying to prove like he can have his ground to the feet. But since he ditched his earlier stance at the last minute and supported Raila Odinga for the fourth time, that really is going to be so hard for him to build. So he has to be always on bare knuckle fight since then onwards to 2027. Yeah. So is a tricky arithmetic.
Now let's look at briefly Rigathi Gachagua. There's a lot of talk that currently we do not have a deputy president. Lawyers are speaking from both sides of the mouth. On one side they say we don't have a deputy president, he was impeached. On the other side, they are saying we have a deputy president. So from your perspective, and I know you chambua the constitution pretty well, where are we at as a country? Are we deputy president-less, or do we have one?
Well, if we jump to the latter, I would say we still have the deputy president, owed to the orders that were released, the conservatory orders.
Yes.
A conservatory order, which is a document that, which is a declaration that whatever has been happening at the Senate, that's according to the conservatory order, is what had been built from the National Assembly.
Yes.
So the court is not interested in what had been built in the National Assembly. It matters, but it doesn't matter now because what would be the ultimate of a decision would actually, in terms of impeachment, would actually come from what do you call this, the Senate. And that is where a conservatory order, which is there to declare that the status quo remains until the matter is heard and determined.
Yeah. And the status quo was taken when DP was still the deputy president?
Absolutely, because you see, at National Assembly, they were mere allegations. And so he was not proven guilty to suffer the consequences of impeachment. At the Senate, by the time he was going to hospital, he was hospitalized.
Yes.
He was still the deputy president by 1 p.m.
True.
He was still the deputy president, and they addressed him as so because that's who he was.
Yes.
So maintaining the status quo means as it were, not as it is. What guys from the National Assembly are trying to drum up and hype over is that it is as it is right now, so that you can include they have gazetted, they have done what the conservatory orders did not even acknowledge even the appointments or the appointment of the successor, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki. So that process that took place that Friday is actually
a nullity.
Is a null and void, because it is the impeachment vote that took place at the Senate. Now, the unfortunate bit about the impeachment taking place when the accused is laying in hospital, and I presume I wasn't there in ICU. It's something.
It's a way of Parliament saying we don't believe you.
Yes, and and you see, we don't believe you. We don't want you. Not really. We don't believe you. We don't want you. So you must go. And so they had taken that kind of position, and that's why they had to do it, even in his absence. However, while the Speaker, Amason Kingi, was reading the standing orders, there was a time he mentioned a clause somewhere, I think it's within the standing orders or within the standing orders. I think he said, unless it be of an exceptional case,
Yes.
circumstance. So they did not address that exceptional circumstance or that special circumstance. And the special circumstance is him being taken ill.
Yeah, that's one of them.
That's one of them.
Yes.
They would have sat down to discuss it. They never discussed it. Then they discussed on proceeding and going on. Now, all those anomalies are the ones which were presented to court.
And that's what somebody
somebody
ruling on?
Yeah,
That's some of the things they will be ruling on this week, I guess.
this week,
Yes.
but there'll be a hearing tomorrow.
Yeah, there will be.
There'll be a hearing now tomorrow because the requisition of the judges, the request for the judges to recuse themselves was actually they actually refused,
Yes.
without quoting any laws to support themselves. They only say in observation we see we have done no wrong, and the deputy CJ has done no wrong, so it should continue as it were. So what there is that, of course, the legal team of the accused, the Rigathi Gachagua side, knew too well that the court extends its jurisdiction
Yes.
over any form of a violation of the Bill of Rights. And you see, the Bill of Rights contain a fair hearing, Article 50, I think. It contains fair hearing.
Yes.
Now, if what we saw at the National Assembly would not amount to unfair hearing, then they were not to be admitted. The case was not to be admitted in court. Now, another thing to look into is that having been admitted in court now, without mentioning every other thing, because Kenyans are witnesses to all that took place, and how it played out with the gentleman who presented Mutuse, who presented the case on behalf of National Assembly. I think
Mutuse will always be funny name.
it was a big goof for Parliament.
He will go down in the history of this country.
It's so sad that you hear people making jokes that akiniite kitu ingine na usiniite Mutuse. You know, when it gets to that point, I think, and these are just ordinary Kenyans. They had actually seen and understood that actually you guys are taking us for a ride. So what I'm trying to say is, having the matter gone to court, and rightly so, according to Article 165, clause 6 and 7.
Yes.
The jurisdiction of the High Court is anyone's right that are being violated in all these organs that have been empowered by the High Court, the tribunals, you know, the quasi-judicials, which Senate was a quasi-judicial, and any other person who is offended under any circumstances, the High Court actually takes charge. And so they presented themselves having suffered this from the quasi-judicial, court, I would say, or chamber. So, court. So the proceedings that went on at the Senate meritoriously granted them a chance to present these anomalies before court. And having qualified to be in court, it means the Court of Appeal is open for you, the Supreme Court is open for you. And having expressed their dissatisfaction with the three judges in the panel, it means that I believe, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe this is where an interlocutory matter comes in, that they might even rush to the Court of Appeal while this one is still going on, which might come into play probably tomorrow or the day after. And that's why the government side, the National Assembly side, is arming itself with the gazettement, the gazette notice for swearing in their preferred person, Kindiki Kithure. So while this is happening, if it happens under that interlocutory, and I believe maybe I'll get to hear these words maybe thereafter, if it happens like that, then I think it will have also neutralized the Gazette notice they could be holding for the swearing in, which means it will take even much longer. But the status quo remains that the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya is Rigathi Gachagua. So now the court is actually moving on with the case. They will leave High Court. They've already presented the case. And also be satisfied
to the Court of Appeal.
Yes, they have to. They have to. You see, once before the judgment has been handed, I believe that's where they call it the interlocutory case, because now they have presented it. Now the Court of Appeal will set its dates while awaiting the High Court to present its verdict.
Declaration.
Then they will have this judgment again for them to scrutinize, because I believe there they do a lot of scrutiny of whatever has been presented. And I believe there is quite a strong case if justice is to be served in the courts without any compromise. Because I was looking at what happened with one of the judges who was being accused of being friendly, being friends with they're not supposed to be enemies, but that closeness becomes suspicious, and also the appointment of his wife again becomes very suspicious. So you see, when you are under such circumstances, you're compelled to do such things. I remember our case in 2012 for Othaya constituency, case against Mary Wambui and Peter Kingara. Of course, Peter Kingara had won the elections, and technically he had the results were actually to his favor, 19,400 versus 14,000. Then when we went to High Court, things were just rushed through without
regarded.
Yes, we were regarded, just the way regarded was regarded in Parliament. But we went to the Court of Appeal and won the case, and actually won the demand for by-election. They saw, instead of doing a recount, they can still grant us a by-election, and that's what happened in Othaya. But now come to Supreme Court. While this case was going on at the Supreme Court the first day, because Mary Wambui had gone to the Supreme Court to request for a leave of stay, so that while they are preparing for elections, blah blah blah, can I continue representing Othaya constituency? And the unfortunate bit is that a precedence has been set by the Supreme Court, and I'm hoping that they're going to clear their name with having such precedences, because it went into a time when they tore into the results and everything that was discussed at the High Court, as though we were at High Court. But
so your case was dismissed based on the arguments
at the Supreme Court. But at the Supreme Court at the same time, once we were done with the case at 6 p.m. at the Supreme Court, and the verdict was to be delivered, it was on a Monday, Monday or Tuesday, and it was to be delivered, the verdict was to be delivered on Thursday and have elections on Monday. 3 hours later, our lawyers received a call while we were along Nyeri, Sagana Nyeri
from the
highway. From the courts. And Justice Kaplana Rawal told them that I have heard nothing that you have said the whole day. Yet the whole day she was interrogating them. And that's how the verdict day was changed from Thursday to Tuesday, so that, you see, of course, you can't hold elections when there is a matter in court.
True.
And that's how Peter Kingara lost the 2012 seat. Now, why I'm saying this is because Justice Kaplana Rawal was rejected, and actually the majority, who are members of the ODM, had actually rejected Justice Kaplana Rawal. But after President Uhuru Kenyatta was sworn in, Kaplana Rawal was endorsed, and also got the support, the influence of that high office for her to become the deputy CJ. So I wouldn't be shocked that she was paid back. So the same thing. Even the judges who are receiving favors here,
yes,
definitely they are obligated to pay back.
Whoever pays the piper.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the case here.
So tomorrow we'll be looking out for the ruling, and then we see how it's going to play out for the rest of the week. I'm seeing time is spent. How is this affecting the counties? Because Nelson Marwa is going to come in with the show Gatuzi, and they're looking at the counties. And I think there has to be a way that whatever we are seeing now is affecting the counties.
Let's agree. The unfortunate bit is when we created counties as per tribes.
Yes.
And we claim not to be tribal, but our counties are as tribal. And our counties are also regional. And so with that kind of inclination of, thought, if Mount Kenya feels offended by the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, then rest assured, 7 or so counties feel offended.
Yes.
Okay? So it will definitely play into that gallery. If Raila Odinga has come into government, it means several counties from Nyanza and other parts of the country will also feel that it's time.
They're enjoying the courtship.
They're enjoying the courtship. Taking Rigathi Gachagua's campaign of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. The president who was in support of it in Kenya Kwanza will now work so hard to cut the areas that are being affected, especially the ones which were for 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 kilometer. And that's the northeastern region. You've seen Mr. Kosgei attending a wedding there, and this is just the signs that we will work as a region to support the president. You know, regardless of what is what is right or wrong, we will support because each region. And in this case, every county has got its interests represented, either as a regional block, or individually they contribute to that regional interest. So it will actually have a lot to do with what happens in the counties, because you've seen everyone is running back to their home yard to say or to make declarations. The president was yesterday in Uasin Gishu, where he comes from, and made his declarations and present the ODM brigade for approval. You know, so this is the politics. This politics. It's regional. It's tribal. It must be like that.
Now that you've said that, very brief, and then we let Marwa come in. Yesterday, the president, almost in his statement, appeared to be addressing the church leaders. And he told them, you know, politics is a job. Msituweke, you know, the stumbling blocks za kuingia binguni. And I think this is after the likes of our Remo Nelson Evangelist spoke out and tore him to bits.
You see, when you make just verbal promises, they end up becoming empty rhetorics, because what you're saying is not what you're doing. The taxation bit is something that is already in Parliament, and now you hear other people, I think Danson Mungatana, coming up with something like we must regulate the functions and operations of a church. They don't say from what manual, because if they say it from the Bible, then the Bible, we know who qualifies to speak and address matters concerning the faith. You know, and it is neither under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, so he's only coming to institute a case, against the church, based on what he thinks, like what we have now, the Constitution. And that is what he's using as a basis of the argument. Yet the Constitution itself is subject to amendments. It means it's imperfect. So when imperfect judges perfection, because church matters, matters of faith is about perfecting the human soul in terms of character, Okay, and that happens in how we submit ourselves to God.
Yes.
So it is a character that is being formed to become submissive wholly to God. So when you introduce an imperfect standard, to gauge that expected standard that has already been set by Jesus Christ, then it means somebody is lost. And that's the government.
Yes.
And if there is any way the government would curse itself, because the leadership, including His Excellency the President, who was once chairman of the CU, meaning he never was born again, but he could have played born again.
Yes.
But we always say matters are spiritual, can spiritually be discerned, and actually the confession of your salvation is only you and the Holy Spirit who knows it. So sometimes Paul tells us actions, judge them by the actions.
Yes.
So if what you're saying is inconsistent with what you profess, then definitely too many questions. And that's why you see preachers and leaders of faith criticizing and questioning and declaring that they never thought that they had seen it wrong. But I think it happens, and that is what is there. So I think the government of the day should be very careful and ask itself some questions. Why are they so keen on Christians, and especially evangelical Christians, and not Muslims or Hindus or any other cult that is, the other religions which also have the basis of the Bible, either the Old Testament. Christian have the Old and the New Testament, but the others were not based on that one, but they are still faiths.
True.
Represented by some people,
True.
But they're not affected in whatever criticism they come in, including the Illuminatis and the other people who worship the devil directly and the atheists. What you're trying to say is that why the Christians who are preaching salvation and who are getting out of that sugar-coated Christianity and coming into real gospel of Christ in the Bible. I think there's something that is going on. These are the end times. And so we would expect lots of these persecutions, because I would call them persecutions. It's just the preamble to the kind of persecutions Christians are going to experience. First, you will be choked and suppressed by the laws. And
just an example.
It's just an example. It's not only happening in Kenya. Actually, it's happening everywhere. It has been happening in countries like the US, even shutting down churches and everything, and schools, eliminating, the Christian subject, but not other religions. So what I'm trying to say is that this is what is happening. Why? Because that is where the truth lies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Murethi, for taking time to talk to us. Remember, at around 11:30 thereabout, Nelson Maro is going to come in with Gatuzi, talking about some of the things that are happening within the counties and how the counties are being affected. Remember, the counties have not been given their money. So your guess is as good as mine. Where are they getting the money from? Do have yourself a lovely morning.
Up next on EBN TV.